Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of The Sauce. Continuing on with college football week 13 SEC matchup here. Ole Miss in the swamp to play Florida. Let's do it.
Welcome to The Sauce. The Sauce. Sauce. Hey, get the sauce.
All right, like I said, we got Ole Miss on the road in Gainesville for this one. Florida catching 10. I actually see a couple 10.5s out there. So Florida catching 10 or 10.5. Total sitting at 55.5 across the board. Let's take a look at the pie charts, and according to the data, action seems to be coming in actually it's pretty much split. About 50-50 on the tickets, 55% of the money coming in on Florida. As I always say, take this data with a grain of salt. So let's get into this matchup, and we'll start with the Ole Miss offense against the Florida defense. Obviously, according to this graphic and according to the eye test, Ole Miss should have the advantage here. When the Ole Miss offense is working, it's about as good as it gets in college football, certainly in terms of a passing attack. Second in yards per pass attempt, fourth in success rate per dropback, second in effective pass. Matched up against a Florida defense that's 85th in yards per pass attempt allowed, 54th in success rate per dropback, 43rd in effective pass. So that's the question we need to answer here. Is Florida's defense able to slow down the Ole Miss passing attack? Jackson Dart over 3,400 passing yards on the year, 11.4 yards per attempt, 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. We know. Amazing numbers, we know. One thing we do have to mention, though, when it comes to the Ole Miss offense, well, actually, two things we have to mention. Number one, they racked up a ton of video game numbers against bad competition earlier in the season. We've already talked about that. But number two, where's the run game for Ole Miss? Since SEC play started, this is their numbers in their SEC games. 3.4 yards per carry, 34.6% success rate per rush. The Ole Miss rushing attack has been non-existent in conference play so far this year. Now, the passing numbers look great, 10.57 yards per attempt, over 327 passing yards per game. They can definitely throw the ball, but this offense is very one-dimensional this year, kind of unexpected. So what do we think about the Florida pass defense? Well, I mean, they looked excellent at home last week against LSU, one of the most dangerous passing attacks in the country. Held them to 5.5 yards per attempt, 31.5% success rate per dropback. LSU was not able to do much offensively in this game. Now, I know you can point at the two games before that against Georgia and Texas, and the Florida pass defense didn't look very good. Over 330 passing yards allowed per game, 9.2 yards per attempt. Both Georgia and Texas were able to throw the ball on this Florida defense. Both of those games were on the road. Well, actually, one was on the road, one was at a neutral site. Last week against LSU was at home in the swamp. And hear me out, I'm seeing a lot of similarities between the Ole Miss offense and the LSU offense. Obviously, we know Ole Miss is slightly better than LSU. But if we're talking strictly offensively, we're talking about an elite passing attack that doesn't have run support. That applies to both LSU and Ole Miss. We're talking about a great offensive line that's been dramatically underperforming. That applies to both LSU and Ole Miss. I'm seeing a lot of similarities in this game. At home in the swamp against the same sort of defense, Florida looked really good last week defensively. Yes, the Florida defense has been run on a bit in their last few games, 4.56 yards per carry, 45.2% success rate per rush, but we just had the graphic up. Ole Miss is averaging 3.4 yards per carry in SEC play. They haven't been able to run the ball at all. I don't know if we could count on Ole Miss running the ball in this game. This has been a very one-dimensional offense. This is an offense that needs to throw the ball, just like LSU, and Florida played great defense against LSU. In fact, look at Florida's last three opponents. It's not like the powerhouse Ole Miss offense is going to catch Florida off guard. Look at their last three games. Georgia, 11th in OFEI. Texas, 10th. LSU, 14th. Ole Miss is 5th, so technically slightly higher than those three. But this Florida defense is seeing an elite offense every single week. Ole Miss is not going to catch them off guard. Now, the good news for Ole Miss here, it looks like they're going to have Trey Harris back, their star wide receiver. I mean, I'm not sure. Lane Kiffin said it's been great having him back out there to be fully loaded. Whole team and offense has been great. Great feeling to have that back. Now, it's not confirmed that he's definitely playing. I would assume a comment like that leads me to believe that he's going to play, but I mean, they just played LSU. They've got star wide receivers, elite passing attack. I don't know. This Florida defense in the swamp, I don't think it should be slept on. But what about on the other side of the ball? What about the matchup for the Florida offense? Well, this is where Ole Miss is different than LSU because the Ole Miss defensive front is elite. They actually lead college football in yards per carry allowed, 16th in success rate per rush, first in effective rush this year. This side of the ball is definitely a tough matchup for Florida, but it's not like Florida's offense has been terrible. I mean, they're 51st in yards per play, 40th in success rate. They can run the ball. They can throw it. especially now that Lagway's back at quarterback. Not that his numbers are setting the world on fire, but he's been pretty good. Produces a lot of big plays, just about 1,300 yards, 10.7 yards per attempt, A+ big-time throw rate. He can definitely make big plays. You can see here last week against LSU, the success rate numbers don't look great. 41.2% success rate per rush, 34.6% success rate per dropback. So maybe not consistent offense. Look at the yards per carry and yards per pass attempt. 6.65 yards per carry, 8.7 yards per pass attempt. So again, he's capable of making big plays. He's definitely an explosive player here at quarterback. And look, Ole Miss defensively, much better than LSU. This is a very good defense. That being said, let's not pretend that it's flawless. I mean, in the last 3 games, they're allowing a 52% success rate per rush. That's not good at all. Just 2.78 yards per carry. So they're not getting crushed on the ground, but short yardage situations, I mean, they're letting teams move the chains on the ground against them. And their numbers against the pass, I mean, 8.3 yards per pass attempt in those 3 games. Now, a lot of that came against Arkansas in garbage time. Arkansas was scoring points on them when they were up big. So maybe take these with a grain of salt. We know this Ole Miss defense is much better than LSU's, but the way this Florida offense operates when Lagway's at quarterback, I mean, you can force 3 straight 3-and-outs. Then the next drive, Lagway hits a 70-yard touchdown pass, and all of a sudden it's 9-7, 10-7, and Florida's right in the game, even though they look terrible for 3 straight drives. So, I mean, those explosive plays, those big plays, they're so volatile, so hard to handicap. And something I like here for Florida is their offensive line has played pretty well. And the reason I'm bringing this up is Ole Miss just dominates everybody on the defensive front. This is one of the best defensive front sevens in the country. But on the road in the swamp against this Florida offensive line that's overperforming and playing well, I don't know if this is a straight domination here, the Ole Miss defensive front against the Florida offensive line. I think Florida's offensive line is going to win some of these battles. Look, I know a lot of sharp people are laying with Ole Miss, and I get it. They're coming off a bye. Ole Miss best fastball will win this game by 2 touchdowns plus. I get it. But personally, now, I'm going to share my personal opinion on this Florida team. It's never a lack of talent with Florida. I mean, 247 has them as the 12th most talented team in the country. It's not that they don't have talent. They always have talent. In fact, Ole Miss is 20th. According to 247, Florida has more talent than Ole Miss. So it's not a lack of talent with Florida. What has happened in recent years to these Billy Napier teams is they play such an insane schedule. They take an early loss to Georgia or Tennessee, or even like a South Carolina will beat them, and the players just give up. It's like, season's over. We're in the SEC. We have 2 losses. This team just feels different. Since Lagway took over as quarterback, they announced that Billy Napier was going to be back next year, so they committed to the coach. The players seem to believe in what they're doing now. I think they like playing with Lagway at quarterback. I think they're starting to regain some belief in their coach. This Florida team is feisty, man, and I'm not laying 10. I get it. Most people I trust are laying with Ole Miss here. Personally, I believe in this new Florida team. I think they're playing with confidence. They're a very talented group. Shouldn't be 10. Give me Florida. I'm going to grab one of those 10.5s. I'm doing it with the Gators. I'm putting my faith in Billy Napier. Famous last words. Live show, 10 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday morning. We'll go through every single game on the board. Well, we'll go through, I think, 28 games we're going to go through. If you're able to make it, we'd love to see you in the comments. If you'd like to see all the bets I have open for this weekend, head over to KyleKirms.com and click on Open Bets. You'll see all mine as well as everyone else on the staff here. Let's have ourselves a good weekend. Please remember to bet responsibly. Talk to you in the Discord.